On today's episode of Beauty Behind the Brand, we have Shannon Seeberan on, the co-founder of Cloud MedSpa. We talk about how your business might benefit from having a room rental. And this could be for med spa, dental clinics, any type of room rental availability. Now, let's dive into this episode because it really makes you think about the win-win, whether you're an esthetician, medical esthetician, an RN, nurse injector, any of the things, and how renting a room might benefit you in the sense of community, collaboration, and even if you own space and wanting to rent, how this might also benefit your business on the availability and when your space isn't being used and how you can add extra revenue. So let's dive in. Okay, Shannon, I'm excited to chat about the software that you have for like solutions for people thinking about getting into like a room rental or even starting a medical spa, or just trying to figure out how they want to structure payment for employees or rentals. And I feel like this is such a great solution for people trying to kind of get their head wrapped around how to even start a business. But before we get into all of that, I want to hear a little bit more about you and how you started this this exciting new kind of trajectory for the medical world and aesthetics.
Sure. Well, thanks for having me. I spent quite a few years consulting in the private practice space for physicians and practices who were looking to expand into the medical aesthetic space within their specialty. And so I'm very familiar with physicians, my dad being one. And so it was an easy way to integrate myself as a non-biased sort of source within a practice to really help incentivize and grow the cash-based business of aesthetics in a medical practice. So I did that for about 10 years. And then I was introduced to Iggy Fanlo, the founder of this platform, and it's taken off since then. We started out as, when I started with the company, we were a shared space, uh, yeah, basically platform. We had a location, our first location, which we still have in Boston. Think of it like a WeWork location. It was multiple exam rooms. We had devices, we had product there, and practitioners would come in and rent by the hour. They would just buy the product they needed for that procedure that they were doing that day. They controlled their own transaction, they controlled their own schedule. We were supplying them with the resources to be entrepreneurs and to run their own business. Everybody had their own business name and LLC, and they were just paying for the time that they were there by the hour. So it was a very it reduced their overhead of entering entrepreneurship. They didn't have to go sign a lease. It was very risk averse from that standpoint. And it allowed them to have the freedom and autonomy of running their own business and also working amongst like-minded professionals like themselves, other aesthetic practitioners, being able to learn from one another and things like that. So since then, we've realized a faster way to scale this opportunity. And we truly believe in um, obviously this business model of empowering the entrepreneur, the aesthetic entrepreneur. It is not dissimilar to the hair care industry where beauticians own their client relationship. Hair salons have been renting chairs for years because they understand that is the relationship between the stylist and their patient is really where it is. That is the same way we are seeing that same impact in the medical aesthetic space. When when an injector changes locations, the patients tend to follow them. And so in that position, the employer is kind of out of luck. Every time they lose an injector employee, they're also losing a lot of patient revenue. And so how do we empower both parties to succeed? And so now our platform allows the owners of the space, the owners of the devices, to become renters to 30 different aesthetic practitioners instead of hiring 3. And the revenue they can generate from 30 different renters is the equivalent of having the revenue from obviously the management of a med spa. What people overlook are the costs associated with running a med spa, the salaries, the patient marketing acquisition, to make sure your employees are busy and treating people. The cost of the inventory of injectables and devices. So now we've created a lucrative, diversified revenue stream for the owners of the space. Now they can make money off the devices they've purchased by renting them to multiple practitioners to use. And everyone is in a win and situation, and everyone's accountable for their own success.
That's all like, it all sounds amazing because, like you said, it's like a win-win for everyone, which I also really like what you said too about it being like a community in the sense of like you've got entrepreneurs, like as we know, entrepreneurship can be very lonely. And I feel like if you have
Mhm.
a lot of like-minded people in the same industry as well doing the same thing and you're all on that equal level, because you're all doing the same thing, maybe different services, but you're all still
Mhm.
renting literally space to be able to perform your service to your client. And that's where
Mhm.
I find it. Yeah, you were talking about hairstylists. They've been doing that for years. Like my mom's a
Mhm.
hairstylist and she was back 30 years ago. That's what they were doing, right? And I think it
Mhm.
gives the staff member or the renter at this point like that ownership and gives them
Mhm.
that excitement of almost taking, because entrepreneurship can be so glamorized too, right? So
Mhm.
all the back
Mhm.
ends of us as the business owner doing all the things, and then the employees probably think we're just raking it in, right? We're half
Yeah.
the time I'm like, I wish I could be an employee, just show up 9 to 5, do what it
Right?
or go home, right? So I think that part of it's really neat because you've created the system that makes it easy for everyone. And I know in one of your other videos I was watching, you were talking about how the client actually doesn't need to know that this is how the business is operated. It's very
Mhm.
like it's obviously private to client reports and all the things, but how does that part of it work when someone's looking to book an appointment? Like,
Mhm.
is it pretty seamless on you just select the provider and then shows the availability, or do you have to go through a different system? Like, how does that part work for the client booking?
So the client booking is purely between the practitioner and their client. So
Perfect.
the renters of the space, who are the practitioners, have their own booking platform where they manage their own client booking. Our platform is for them to reserve and schedule their time in the space that they're using.
Okay.
And so, what's nice about that and that disconnection right now is that the space owners, therefore, have zero liability about what is happening in their space because they have no visibility as to who the patient is and they don't do the transaction. So,
Mhm.
they don't have access to EMR. They know that Jenny Smith is going to be in exam room as a practitioner B for 2 hours today, and that's all they know.
Oh, amazing.
So they don't know the procedure that's happening. They don't know who the patient is.
Mhm.
So the practitioners are managing their own schedule. Their use and access to obviously reserve the space is separate. So we have a very easy app to use when renters slash practitioners are accessing a space. They go into the app, they pick the location, and they have to complete enrollment.
Mm.
And I'm speaking from a US perspective as far as what is needed for practitioners in the US to practice independently. And you can obviously advise me of what's needed in Canada,
Mhm.
but um, oversight from a medical director and malpractice insurance. And we can help connect practitioners with those resources if they need them. But in order to begin practicing at that location, they have to upload those two items. And then they can go ahead and start renting space and purchasing the product they need.
Are you looking to fuel your body with the best nutrition? Look no further than Good Protein. Whether you're a fitness enthusiast, a busy professional, or just someone who values their health, Good Protein has your back. Good Protein offers a wide range of high quality protein products that taste amazing and make you feel even better. But there's an exciting part. When you shop Good Protein, you're not just getting high quality protein, you're getting it at a price that you won't break the bank. Use promo code behind the brand at checkout and you'll get exclusive 20% off your order. That's right, 20% off. Browse our fantastic selection and make sure to enter behind the brand to unlock an extreme discount. So why settle for less when you can get the best? Give your body the nutrition it deserves with Good Protein. Head over to the website
goodprotein.ca and remember to enter that promo code of Behind the Brand for 20% off your next order.
To
Okay.
use at that space. So it's a very streamlined process. The owner of the location can see at all times through their software who's going to be in their space and when. It's very easy. They're looking at a calendar and they can see they have 2 renters coming in today for 4 hours. So this software is a smart system that's managing the process on both ends. Everyone is easily using it. You can think of it like an Airbnb app, right? You go in, you pick where you want to rent, for how long you want to rent. And it's a very simple, streamlined process. And the renters are benefiting, obviously, from their largest asset and generating additional revenue from that.
That's amazing. Now, when talking about like devices, so let's say, for example, I
Mhm.
have a laser machine and someone's wanting
Mhm.
to come and rent the room. Is there like ways that you can just add on? Like they would then select which
Mhm.
add-on services they would need and
Yeah,
rent that space?
It's it's like buying the product, right? So I'm going to be in the space, I'm going to do a neurotoxin procedure, so I buy a vial of Dysport in addition to renting the hour in the space. Instead of buying the vial, you would be renting said device for an hour. And so we help our clients come up with what that rental fee is. Typically, we back into it from what the procedure cost is when it comes to
Mm,
devices. If a device procedure is $1,000, we want that practitioner renter taking home a 60% margin on
okay.
that procedure. So if that practitioner can take home $600 of the $1,000 procedure, that's a huge win for them because they didn't write the six-figure device to purchase that machine. You did.
Mhm.
But they're still earning a fantastic margin on a procedure. And so the balance of that procedure cost would be obviously room rental from the renter. They would be paying the hour for the room, and they'd be paying the rest of that is the rental of the device. So all of that revenue goes back into the owner's pocket.
Amazing. Now, is there an equation that you feel that's been very popular of like the hourly rental cost
Mhm,
between
mhm.
like your nurse injector to like an esthetician or a medical esthetician, what kind of the going rate is in your area?
I would say 95% of renters at our locations are injectors. And so that's why a typical hourly room rate is around $99.
Okay.
So we do have some estheticians in our spaces, and there's a huge benefit to having estheticians in the spaces from a referral standpoint,
Yes.
right? So they're not providing services the injectors are, and the injectors are not doing facials and other procedures that the estheticians are doing.
Mhm.
So I do see some locations providing a different hourly pricing um, for estheticians, so that can be done. Typically, injectors are paying around $99 an hour. They're, I know product pricing is different in Canada too, but they're typically taking home between 250 and 450 an hour after the cost of room and product. So the margins are really good for the independent injector. That's why we have also figured out most of these injectors are not working 8 hours a week. They're working 2 hours a week, 3 hours a week, because they're making a lot of cash in a short amount of time. And they're typically doing still full-time nursing or
Yes.
another
Yeah.
job. And so this allows them to obviously have a little bit more control and freedom of their own careers instead of working a 60-hour work week in the hospital. Now they could dial back because they're making really healthy cash revenue stream for themselves at a Cloud Med Spa location. And the owners don't mind, right? What's nice with the software is the software is always telling them where they are from a utilization standpoint. They can always see, I have 300 available rental hours in a month, and I'm currently at a 10% utilization, which means that I can grow by, I can add on 10 more renters and I will still be comfortable within the space I have allotted.
Oh, I love that with the reporting of seeing kind of in live time. That's something that I
Yep.
find with software, especially here in Canada. Like we are getting more spa softwares, which are great, but I find that something that is so overlooked when developing software is the reporting side because it takes the guessing work out, right? When it's all automated, it's easy to see, easy to read, and that's such a great way to see how much money is coming in and how much potential revenue can be made or what you're missing out on that availability.
Yes. And when you think of being the space owner, it is revenue you're not tapping into. You
Yes.
already have the space, you're already paying for it. So just be smarter about how that space is being used because there are we've a lot of our clients have committed to too large of a footprint for their practice. Um, you know, obviously they think long term when signing that lease and they think about what their patient or client base will be in 10 years. And they may potentially not achieve that, or on the road to achieving that, they have a lot of extra room.
Mhm.
And so, medical aesthetics is synergistic with a lot of different specialties, surprisingly, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, obstetrics and gynecology, orthodontics has an aesthetic aspect where everyone has a very similar patient crossover. And so the foot traffic of the injector patient could align with the orthodonture patient as well,
Oh, I never
who
even
might
thought of
want their
that.
teeth whitened or veneers, right? So our clients who own the space who are in diverse array of specialties love this from the standpoint of it could potentially mean additional clients for them.
Oh, I love that. And the diversity, exactly that is you could have someone, like you said, coming in and doing teeth whitening, and then they could be also at the same time getting a Botox done right after, and it's all
Right.
complimentary services. That's what I
Hmm.
really love about aesthetics is because you can go anywhere with it. Like it's just
Hmm.
there's so many things. It's always you're always learning, and there's so many changes, and then having some type of software or something that can like really simplify it. Now, when it comes to the payment side of things, do you also
Hmm.
process payments? So like when it's being like the renter's paying, do you do the payment side so then it goes directly to the landlord per se?
Yep. Yep. That's all done via Stripe in the software. So it's very clean. We want to make sure the landlord, the space owner, is getting compensated directly and immediately for the utilization of their space. So when a renter is enrolling in the app, they have to obviously upload their billing information. So when they are reserving that time on Thursday and buying that product, that transaction immediately hits your account.
Amazing.
And so it's very streamlined. You're getting compensated ahead of time for a practitioner's use of your space and buying product. And what makes this model so much better than you had mentioned before, an independent suite, all of these suite rental franchises that are blowing up is a complement to the fact that people want to work and run their own business and have their own business. What those suites don't offer, again, is you're working alone. And at the end of the day, like you mentioned, you want to be bouncing ideas off of each other. You want to be in a network and a community of like minded professionals that can mentor and support each other. We have one location where we had 5 practitioners create their own business group called the Botox Bitches, and they meet monthly and talk about how to continue to support each other's success in their own businesses. So it's really curating this non-competitive environment of education and training, which is ongoing in this space, making sure the reps are coming in and having touch points with all the practitioners. It's so important. And so you don't get that same experience at an independent suite. And just the access to product pricing at a very competitive rate, that's the biggest margin for these practitioners is the cost of product for their profit margin. And so, being able to give them a great product price where they're not buying 10 boxes of filler at a time. They're just buying the one box.
That's
And
amazing.
they're so low cost of, very low barriers of entry, very easy access to thrive. And so it's really sort of, breaking the stereotype that entrepreneurship is a risky, expensive venture. We're saying it's not.
Mhm.
But if you're motivated and driven and you have the client base, you can do this.
I love that, like, exactly what you said, because it takes really the risk factor out of it. I remember opening my spa, I was quite young, I was 20 when I opened it, and it was 1,000 square feet, and I'm like, "What am I gonna do with all this
Right.
space?"
It's
Right?
the fear. You're in
Yeah.
fear all the time. Yeah.
Exactly, in that fight or flight, you're just like, "Okay, I'm gonna try to pay my bills this month," or, "I don't have enough
Yes.
money to even furnish this place," right? So, I think that whole kinda the jump to become your own business owner is
Mhm.
exciting, and I think especially for women, we're very women dominant in industry with this as well, as if you are a mom or if you are someone who wants to stay working at the hospital, but you wanna have this side gig of being able to do Botox and filler and sculpture and all the things, but you still wanna be able to have that creative outlet as well as having that job
Mhm.
security staying at the hospital. So that's something that
Mhm.
I think is really important is it's empowering them to be able to have their own schedule, be flexible, but then taking that
Mhm.
risk factor out, which I just think is such a brilliant idea for anyone.
I agree. I agree. And for such a hard-working specialty like nurses to have this opportunity, so many nurses underestimate their bedside manner and how it translates into really good
Mhm,
client service from an aesthetic standpoint. And so being able to build them up as confident entrepreneurs, knowing they know what they need to do and they can cultivate really good client relationships. It doesn't happen overnight. We all know that. You don't learn how to inject and then have 20 patients knocking on your door the next day. But
mhm.
if put the time in and you're good at what you do, you can slowly grow your business and have this option.
And it takes the competition out, I feel, like, I see that a lot with our nurse injector and as well as our team, and it's amazing to see if someone has a question. I'm sure it's the same with the rentals, right? Like, if someone has a
Mhm.
question in one of those rooms, they're gonna come out and maybe ask someone else who might also have had that same situation. So it really makes it
Mhm.
more confident, I think, in your ability, and I totally agree with the bedside manners of nurses, like,
Mhm.
they are just like the poise and just how they can make people feel, and then doing that in like a medical way, but now in making them feel and look more beautiful in their own
Yeah.
natural air quotes, but in their own way of their specialty. And that's what I think is just so eye-opening for the medical aesthetics world is the way nurses can elevate and even getting on social media and being so educational. I come like a lot of
Mhm.
my family are nurses as well, and I just love they're a wealth of knowledge. So
Yep.
it's just so insightful sitting in and actually talking in the symmetric how your face works, the muscles in your face, and how it needs to be symmetrical this way, and this is how you're moving. It's so interesting, but then it's so graceful at the same time.
Yes.
Be that so transparent in making those changes.
Yeah. And it's lovely to see nurses supporting nurses because what we've realized in the last 5 years of sort of implementing this platform is that there is a void in the marketplace for uh, successful supportive mentorship and preceptorship programs. So
Mhm.
there's 1,000 places you can go get trained in injectables, but the residency of injectables doesn't exist, right? Like
Yes.
there's no residency period. And so to be able to find a location where you can lean on some more experienced practitioners and get that support to build the confidence you need to be a good injector or aesthetic practitioner is important. And that is one thing we encourage at our locations is, hey, think outside the box. If you've been injecting for 5 years, you are capable of mentoring and supporting someone else. And this can be a separate revenue stream for you.
Mhm.
Everyone's time is money. So market yourself as a preceptor to more green, new injectors and offer those services of support. And we've seen that really take off because so many practitioners come to us and say, I received my certification 4 years ago and then I didn't do anything with it. I don't know what to do with it. And so a lot of hand holding and support is needed to launch independent aesthetic careers. And we understand that's a huge aspect of what can be offered at our locations.
And it continues, like you said, I think with the nurse practitioners as well, like even you having that ability to connect yourself with a nurse practitioner is huge because if you're like where we are, we're in a small community. There's only so many, and there's only so many clients they can take on. So if they're able to source a nurse practitioner that's reliable, they're working with the same systems and softwares as you, and they understand the mission needed for these clients, that is a win-win as well, that it's built in
Yep.
into the whole system itself.
Yeah, it's very organic from that way. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So another
Yeah.
question I had was for retail. So if someone were to have a retail area at their spa or salon, or clients are wanting to buy
Mhm.
aftercare for, let's say, anti-aging or preventative measures, how does that work? Is there like an online kind of place that they can purchase and then the sale goes in from there, or does the client, how does that part work?
So that's a great question. Typically, most of our practitioners, and this has really taken off since the pandemic, when people couldn't go into spas and be seen, is the drop ship opportunity for skincare. So if we have 20 practitioners renting out of one location, each practitioner has their own opinion about which brands they want to support. So
Yes.
initially, we had locations saying, we'll carry the brand, but all of a sudden you've got inventory from 20 different brands, and that's a lot of closet space and it's a lot of money. And so we have encouraged practitioners at Cloud Med Spa locations who are running their own business to open their own dropship accounts and benefit from the profit margin of whatever sale they make in that exam room with their client and their patient. And so a lot of our practitioners are doing that. So they
Mhm.
tend to come into the space with just a back bar, discuss the skincare needs of their client in the room and do the transaction right then and there, and the product shipped to their client's home. If a location, a brick and mortar currently has product and that practitioner wants to work out an agreement with the location or the spa about, profit margins on supporting product that's already there, that happens as well.
Okay. Because that was something I was thinking about, is if someone already
Mhm.
is kind of known for having that specific skincare line, and you know
Yeah.
the clientele in that specific, because it takes you a long time, right, to market, and you're known for having those specific clients
Mhm.
that are wanting to purchase that retail. And even within the rooms itself, how does that work with the back bar? So do they bring their product back and forth, or do a lot of them have
Yeah.
mm,
Our renters are usually bringing a little wheelie bag with them when they come to the space of their personal sort of, whether it's a back bar, or they're also encouraged to bring their own syringes. Each practitioner has a preference for what syringes they need. So
yeah.
as a space owner, we ask space owners, obviously you need a beautiful room with a reclining chair for the renters to use. Having got access to gauze, latex gloves is great, and sharps disposal.
Hmm.
And so if you can have those resources on hand for those practitioners when they're in the space, that's all you need. They're responsible for curating every other experience related to their client experience.
And it's great, like you said before, is that it can be an add-on. So if someone, let's say, needs, like, it makes more sense if you're, let's say you're renting to someone who does waxing, and it's like, okay, I
Mhm.
also need wax sticks and like
Right.
the strips, right? Like you could
Yes.
probably customize it however you want to take
We
that.
can add as many SKUs as you want in the
Okay.
software.
Okay.
So if you want us to offer, Hylenex or even syringes, that practitioner, when they're renting the space and purchasing the product they need, they can also buy those supplies from you as well.
Oh, that's
So
amazing.
we can add, even if there's products outside of the injectable products that, are purchased through Cloud Med Spas, like IV hydration. If your location is carrying all these other products and skincare, we can just add those SKUs to the software. So the software becomes a shopping space for the renter practitioner who's using the space.
Oh, so you can actually purchase through Cloud Med Spa the add-ons as well.
Well, we offer the injectable product. So our partners, our space owners, are purchasing the injectable product. They're set up as ship
Okay.
twos.
Yeah,
And so that's how they're getting access to really good product rates,
I love that.
because we are obviously, the corporate account that is establishing those location and ship tos for each of our clients. The additional product that Cloud Med Spas does not offer, but your location might offer, can be added into your software. So if
Okay.
you say, I have IV hydration, I have PRP kits, I have, a certain skincare, we can put that in the software for you so that you are offering that to renters. It's not coming from us, but it can be purchased by the practitioners who are accessing your space.
Okay, because that would be another way as well for the landlord or the person offering the space to be able to make that extra revenue as well.
Mhm. Yep, there's a lot of opportunity for that. Correct.
Are you needing wellness hacks that are just easy and seamless? Well, let me tell you about SIIP Bone Broth. This is something I can't live without, and it's really easy as they come in their own individual packages for travel and/or if you're going away for a weekend, just throw a couple in your cooler or in your backpack and you're ready to go. They are great for supporting joints, collagen, protein, healthy gut, containing, like I said, high quality protein too. It helps with elasticity and even electrolytes. And what I love about SIP is they are actually a husband and wife team out of Toronto, and they are giving us an exclusive discount of 10% off using our promo code Beauty Brand Podcast for 10% off. I have been using it for years. I love it on a cold day. If it's raining out, I love it as just like a little midday pickup and or even cooking. I love putting it in any chicken noodle soups or any stews that I'm doing or stir fries. It is absolutely amazing with so many benefits. So remember, Beauty Brand Podcast 10 for 10% off SIP Bone Broth. Yeah, I think it's a hard thing. I feel like because I've always had employees that are hourly and like commissions, and there's all the ways obviously to pay people. But now I see like the trend, a lot of people doing the rentals. But it is, like you said, it is very low risk when you have these systems in place, and it's just like it just works its own way.
It
It's not,
does.
change is hard, right? Change is
Right. It
something
is. It
change.
is hard. And we've seen clients do a hybrid. So we've seen clients say, I have one employee, I'm going to keep her as an employee, but I want to start accessing the rental model and having renters come in too. And they do that.
Mm.
And so there's not one set way to implement this platform. You can do it in whatever, manner makes you comfortable. You can add one room, you can have two rooms. So, it's purely flexible to the location owner, which is nice.
Where, so you're based out of the US. Is there any other
Mhm.
countries currently that can take advantage of Cloud MedSpa?
Yes, but we'd love to be in Canada as well. Obviously, we just haven't headed north yet. But we would love to, obviously, bring in Canada as well. We are in, I have to count the states now, but we have 30 locations across the US right now. So
Amazing.
if you are a practitioner seeking this opportunity, you can find our locations on our website and see if there's a location and an opportunity to rent near you. If you're a space owner and you're saying, hey, I only practice 2 days a week out of my space, I could be renting it the other 3, 4 days. There's opportunity for you as well to generate additional revenue.
That's amazing. Another question I was thinking about as well was insurance. Is there a way
Mhm.
that the insurance goes through Cloud MedSpa, or is that a separate corporate?
So each practitioner has their own malpractice insurance.
Yes.
And so that allows, and their own medical director oversight. So you are strictly a renter. As the space owner, you are just a landlord,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
And so you're not responsible for covering additional insurance for the practitioners in your space
Mhm.
because you don't have visibility as to who the patients are, what procedures are being performed. So it's really risk adverse for the owners of the space to go this route as well. Obviously, you have the basic slip and fall insurance as a space owner, but that's it.
And you don't have that
Um,
much overhead, really. Like if you're doing the drop
mm-mm.
shipping and then they're bringing in their own
you,
products,
yep,
you've really got your beds, your spa beds.
right.
That's about it, really.
Right,
Mhm.
right. And it's important for owners to understand that this is the way the industry is going, so you can fight it. We have practitioners coming to us saying, my employer's threatening me if I leave. And I always say, there's a problem with the business model if you feel like you have to instill fear in your employees to
Yes.
control them. I go, that's not a business model that works because we can't, at the end of the day, we can't control our own people. And so, how do we pivot and continue to be successful while allowing autonomy for everyone involved.
Hmm.
And we really feel like this is a great solution. We're nobody's hands are in the pockets of the practitioners. Their success is truly their success. Their profit is their profit. You're just providing them with a better opportunity to practice without taking on the overhead that owners already know the overhead involved. So it's just, you're understanding that you're offering a great opportunity to these practitioners.
Hmm. And now, do most of the other clinics, do they have a receptionist and that's brought into the cost, or?
Some of them do, some of them don't. A lot of locations have remote independent access as well if someone is not going to be there at the time. And so that can be easily managed as well.
Okay,
So
interesting.
there's a lot of different ways, yeah, to provide access if someone is not going to, if it's during hours that there isn't someone else there.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, I'm just thinking of all the different things within for I think of
Hmm.
running a business, right? Of all the different between
Yep.
inventory and staff. And as it is a service industry, one of the most expensive things is employees, right? And
Mhm.
one of the biggest struggles, like
Yep.
keeping them happy, constantly like hoping that you're doing enough as an employer,
Right.
right? That I
Right.
think that's kind of the low-hanging fruit that is always on our mind as business owners is I hope I'm doing enough, or I'm doing everything to try to keep them. But it is hard when you
Hmm.
see the numbers that you're bringing in as a service provider. I was the same when I worked at another spa, but it's hard to also be able to see the other side of the business owner of the overhead and
It
expenses in
is.
that business, right?
Completely, completely. It's hard to be empathetic of that because, right, they just assume you're raking in all this money, but they don't know what you're paying in a lease. They don't know how much you purchased that device for, and salary and insurance costs. All of a
Hmm.
sudden, those margins, what they think you're taking home, is very small.
Hmm.
So that resentment as an employee, we've seen build, and it's one of, the biggest epidemics of this industry is the turnover.
Yes.
So that's a huge challenge, of course. Yeah.
Well, it sounds like you're coming up with a great solution for
Mhm.
anyone looking to take that, like you said, even if it's your first kind of step into room rentals or starting to get people involved and just having one person at a time starting to get onto this platform. And like I said, I've wanting to share this to so many people. Once you get to Canada, oh my gosh, I think this is gonna
Yes.
explode because
And we're happy to have inquiries from space owners in Canada as well. If you have a space you think you can leverage, we'd love to have the conversation.
yeah, absolutely. And with with the app as well, is it so I just want to make sure I'm getting my head wrapped around everything. So there's
Mhm.
the app for the actual space providers, and then if you were a client wanting to book, it's through this same company,
So
but
the
it's
renters, yeah, the renters, it's think of it like Airbnb, right? You go on
okay.
your Airbnb when you're a renter, you
Yes.
find the location, you obviously have to enroll malpractice, medical directorship, billing, and you can access that space and you can start purchasing product and renting space. And that's through the Cloud Med Spa app. If you're
Okay.
the owner of the space, we provide you with the software platform that manages all of those bookings. So you're looking at an interface of a calendar
Okay.
and you can see and you control the availability. So if you only want it to be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday from 3 to 6 or whatever it is, you're controlling the access that the practitioners see on the app, right?
Okay.
And so you can see on your booking system who is booked at what time, which product did they buy. So you want to make sure you have that product on site when they come in. So the system is constantly telling you how the space is being used. And so
Mhm.
it's doing that work for you. If versus you having to, practitioners call you and say, "Can I come in today? And is this room available?" I can't imagine maintaining that, especially when you have the potential of having 20, 30 different renters. That would be a
Yes.
headache.
Mhm.
So the space is managing that for you. You think of it, I always compare it to relevant apps people might be more familiar with, like Open Table. I think of Open Table as it helps restaurants be as efficient as possible and seat as many people as possible during a dining period. But it's doing all of it, understands how tables are turned and how many people can be sat. So that's kind of what the software is doing. It understands the availability and access. and is managing all of that utilization of your space for you, in addition to managing the product inventory and what is needed. It alerts you when you need more of a product and things like that.
Amazing. Oh my gosh. Now, is there any questions I'm not asking or anything you'd like to kind of add that our listeners may need to know about Cloud Med Spa?
I think from if you're a practitioner listening and you're thinking of your options out there, obviously this is an extremely transparent, clean opportunity for you to jumpstart your career or to continue your career by owning all of your profitability. Right. And maybe one day you will be a Cloud Med Spa location owner too. We've had a lot of providers who've rented space for years and then transitioned into their own space and leveraged their space to rent to other practitioners. And so this is a very transparent opportunity. Nobody's taking from your profit margins. You are in full control of your schedule and profit. And so there's other opportunities out there where it seems glamorous and everyone's going to take care of your initial steps in launching your business. But at the end of the day, you're back to square one with someone taking a large margin of your procedure. And so we just want to communicate that transparency for the practitioners. For space owners, we don't discriminate because we have med spa owners, we have private practice physicians, we have orthodontists, we have dentists, we have anybody with incremental space that is conducive, has a beautiful room and a chair, can leverage their space and utilize their space for additional revenue.
Mhm.
Obviously with having the aesthetic practitioner renting their space. So it's a great opportunity, and being smarter. We didn't invent shared space. It's been around for a while. And so it's just a smarter way to think about leveraging your largest asset.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much for your time today. It's definitely getting my
Thank you.
gears
The
going on.
wheels turning.
Yeah, see the smoke coming out of my ears thinking about this because it's definitely the way of the future, and I can see that. Obviously, some of the most successful spas and salons I know, they have this platform, and you see it a lot in the States. I know it's been a very
Mhm.
popular movement there, and ever since I think with the pandemic as well, people wanting to, be able to be on their own schedules. They want to be their own like their own boss, but then
Yep.
also have that collaboration instead of that competition vibe. And I see
Yeah.
a lot of that in the beauty industry right now, which I just see it growing and growing, which is it's an
Yeah.
amazing space to be in. And I think
It
for
is.
the nurse injectors as well, it's a safe place for everyone. And it's just to make it simple. And I think
Yeah.
that's what Cloud Med Spa is doing to make it simple for.
Thank you. Thank you, Nicole. I appreciate it. Yes. And so we love any inquiries. So to reach out and set up a call and for us just to have a conversation. Does this work for you as a practitioner? Does this work for your location? We love having those conversations.
Amazing. And we'll put all your show notes below as well. So everyone can
Great.
reach out who would like to speak to you. And yeah, don't miss this opportunity because it sounds like a good one.
Thank you. Thank you, Nicole. I appreciate it.